In a faraway kingdom nestled between towering mountains and misty forests, there grew a flower unlike any other. The flower, known only as the Silver Petal, blossomed once every century on the highest peak of Mount Eldris. Its petals shimmered with an otherworldly glow, silver as moonlight, and its fragrance could heal the gravest of wounds. Those who gazed upon it would feel a rush of strength, a sense of clarity, and an overwhelming peace. Legends whispered that the Silver Petal held the key to unimaginable power, a power so great it could grant eternal life or bend the fabric of the world to one's will. For centuries, the Silver Petal remained undisturbed, its secret known only to the few who wandered the mountains, seeking solace or the promise of healing. But as time passed, rumors began to spread. Whispers of its power reached the ears of kings, queens, and rulers, each desiring the Silver Petal for their own. And so, a great war was born. Two kingdoms, once allies, became bitter enemies. The Kingdom of Avenore and the Kingdom of Dravin. Both had been drawn to the Silver Petal, but neither could possess it without the other's blood being spilled. They gathered their armies, preparing for a battle that would decide the fate of the flower and the world itself. The soldiers of Avenore, clad in shimmering armor of blue and silver, marched with purpose, their eyes burning with the dream of dominion. They were led by King Alaric, a ruler known for his wisdom and his insatiable hunger for power. His people believed the Silver Petal would bring peace and prosperity to their kingdom, making it the greatest of all lands. The forces of Dravin, on the other hand, were a fierce and ruthless army, draped in dark armor adorned with red and gold. Their commander, Queen Serephine, was a warrior queen who had spent her life perfecting the art of war. To her, the Silver Petal represented ultimate control, the ability to dominate the world and secure her kingdom's future through unmatched strength. The path to the flower was treacherous. Mount Eldris was not a place for the faint of heart, and the journey was fraught with dangers. The higher one ascended, the more the air grew thin, the winds colder, and the landscape more desolate, yet the armies marched on undeterred, each eager to claim the prize. As they neared the summit, a great mist rolled in, thick and impenetrable, enveloping both armies in a shroud of uncertainty. For days they fought through the fog, their path ever obscured by the swirling clouds, and yet, despite the confusion, both armies converged upon the peak at the same time. The Silver Petal stood there, bathed in a soft, ethereal light. It was everything the legends had promised. A single, delicate bloom of silver petals, glowing against the stark stone of the mountaintop. The flower swayed gently as though it had been waiting for this moment, for the two armies to arrive. The battle erupted immediately. From the very first clash of swords, it was clear that neither side would yield. The air was thick with the sounds of steel meeting steel, the cries of warriors locked in combat. Avenore's knights fought with precision, their blades flashing in the sunlight as they sought to push back Dravin's relentless onslaught. Dravin's soldiers, savage and determined, hacked their way through the ranks of Avenore with brutal force. As the battle raged on, a strange phenomenon began to occur. The Silver Petal, with each drop of blood spilled upon the mountaintop, seemed to pulse and grow brighter. The light that emanated from it became blinding, illuminating the battlefield below in a dazzling glow. It was as though the flower itself was alive, reacting to the chaos and bloodshed surrounding it. King Alaric and Queen Serephine, though separated by their armies, were both drawn to the flower, their eyes fixed upon its shimmering petals. Each believed that if they could be the first to reach it, they would be granted the power to end the war in their favor. But fate, as it often does in such tales, had other plans. As Alaric advanced, he was met by one of Dravin's fiercest warriors, a giant of a man with a battle-axe that gleamed in the light of the Silver Petal. The two clashed, their weapons striking with such force that the mountain trembled beneath them. King Alaric fought with all his strength, but the warrior was relentless, pushing him back with each swing of his axe. At the same time, Queen Serephine found herself facing a group of Avenore's elite archers, their arrows whistling through the air as they sought to slow her advance. She leaped and rolled, her sword cutting through the air with swift precision, her eyes never leaving the silver petal. The battle became more chaotic with each passing moment, as both sides realized the flower's power was being amplified by the violence. The ground beneath them began to crack, and the wind howled with an unnatural force. It seemed as though the mountain itself was protesting the war being waged in its shadow. As both leaders neared the flower, their hands outstretched, something unimaginable happened. The silver petal, sensing the hearts of those who fought for it, began to react in ways no one could predict. The petals, once soft and delicate, hardened and sharpened, transforming into a dangerous, thorn-like structure. The flower's glow intensified, casting harsh shadows across the battlefield. In that moment it became clear that the silver petal would not be claimed by one ruler or the other. Its power was not meant to be used for conquest, but for something far greater: balance. The mountain trembled violently, as if the earth itself were protesting the bloodshed. Suddenly, the ground split, and the silver petal was ripped from its roots, rising into the air with a force that knocked both armies to their knees. The flower hovered above the battlefield, its petals glowing so brightly that they lit the entire kingdom for miles around. With a final deafening roar, the silver petal exploded in a cascade of light, scattering petals in every direction. The light from the flower washed over the battlefield, and as it did, the soldiers of Avenore and Dravin fell to the ground. Their wounds healed, their anger quelled. The flower had chosen no victor. In the aftermath, the battlefield was silent. The bodies of the fallen lay among the shattered stones, but there was no more fighting. The silver petal had taken away the desire for war. Its power had not been used to rule, but to restore peace to a land that had long been torn apart. And so the war ended, not with a king or queen holding the flower aloft in triumph, but with both sides standing together in the quiet aftermath, looking at the place where the silver petal had once bloomed. The mountain stood silent and serene once again, as if the war had never been. The silver petal was gone, but its legacy remained. It had taught the kingdoms a lesson: no power, no matter how great, should ever be fought for. True peace could only come through understanding, not conquest, and from that day forward, Avenore and Dravin set aside their differences, rebuilding their kingdoms not on the blood of their enemies, but on the foundation of unity. And though the flower never returned, its lesson lived on, in every heart and in every corner of the land. The War of the Silver Petals had ended, but the promise of peace was just beginning. And so the kingdoms thrived, their rulers forever remembering the day the silver petal had shown them the true power of harmony.